No, the guy, the head. The guy sits here. No, I will give the mic. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is such an honor and delight to welcome you all to the Tony Elumelu Foundation and United Bank for Africa High-Level Roundtable to discuss how we can work together to empower more young entrepreneurs in the green space so that our young people can take the lead in climate action across the continent. As I'm sure all of us know, the foundation is the leading entrepreneurship program on the continent. We empower thousands of young people every year with funding, with training, with mentorship, and with access to digital and physical networks. Now, I'm about to introduce two speakers that everyone in this room is excited to hear from. Our founder, Mr. Tony Elumelu, and the Director General of the World Trade Organization, a name that all of us have. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. So without much further ado, I'll hand over to our founder, Mr. Elumelu.
Thank you. Can you guys see? Oh, wow. Good. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for your patience. And I'm very excited, delighted, privileged to have our export to the world, a global citizen, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I'm sure I'm one of the few people who pronounce the names very, very well. Reason being that, and you too, Ahuna, reason being that she's indeed my big sister from the same place. We're very proud of you. Thanks so much for always making time when it comes to discussing youth empowerment and helping young Africans. Thank you. We saw this when you were Finance Minister, Coordinating Minister of Economy. We saw this when you were at the World Bank, and we indeed are seeing it again now that you are at the World Trade Organization. We have entrepreneurs across Africa. They tell us always the frustration they have in trying to grow their businesses. We say to them, you have equity at WTO. We know those who are running WTO. So my sister, how can we, the Tony Elumelu Foundation and the World Trade Organization under your leadership, partner to empower and support young entrepreneurs in the green space in Africa?
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks for your patience. It's really delightful. And when my brother asks that I come and join him, I cannot say no, of course, because I'm terribly proud of what he has been able to do in just a few years to empower and inspire so many young entrepreneurs, and maybe older ones too.
Thank you.
But you asked me, what can we do to empower young entrepreneurs in the green space? First of all, I want to say to you that I'm one of those who believe thoroughly that we have no choice. The future is green. The future of trade, the future of growth is two things. It's green and it's digital, and it must be inclusive.
Correct.
That's my mantra. So if you believe that, then those two spaces for us in trade, green trade, digital trade. Digital trade, for instance, is the fastest growing segment of trade. So we start thinking, what is it we can do at the WTO? And how can we work with young entrepreneurs? But I want to share with you a little bit of a frustration or a question I have, which is one question I want to pose to you. When I look at the press and I meet young people, or they come to the WTO for some program or the other, there's so many talented African young people who are actually already doing things in the green space.
True.
There are some of them who are working on EV, motorcycles and bikes, even cars. You know, there are others who are making solar-powered appliances. There are others who are trying to bring electric power to rural areas. There's so many exciting things happening. But I don't know the universe of this. It would be so interesting if we had some kind of database knowledge instead of these one-off stories, you know, that I keep hearing, oh, there's this brilliant person here and there's this young lady there who is doing something. And I wanted to ask you, Tony, do you have some kind of database of at least your group and those who are green? Because I think we need one. And the reason I'm saying this is because to go green and to empower young people in this space, we need partnerships.
True.
If we don't have the power of a collective, it will be difficult to form those partnerships. So I'm very, very interested. I don't want to duplicate what someone else has done. So I'm saying it openly. If anyone knows of where there is a database of all our young people, young entrepreneurs in green, please put up your hand. Because if there isn't, I'd like to see how we can develop one. How do we empower young people? I think it's mostly through partnerships. And so, beyond the WTO, we are not the only ones you can partner with. But I'll say a little bit about the WTO. At the WTO, we are not a financing agency. Mm-hmm. We are a rules-making agency, so we don't have pots of money. But we have some. And we're interested in young people. We just had an event on youth and trade. We had one on gender and trade. And what do we like to do? We like to build knowledge platforms that young entrepreneurs can tap into and women entrepreneurs can tap into. We have some ability to do some capacity building to help young entrepreneurs. And above all, we have it's not a magic bullet, but I like to think of it sometimes. We have the International Trade Center. The International Trade Center is an offshoot of the WTO and the UNCTAD. And I wished I could have come with Pamela Cook-Hamilton, who is the CEO of that, because they do supply-side interventions, meaning they actually try to help with finance, with knowledge, with capacity building, with all the things that frustrate. And they are working in the green space. So the ways we can work with you is by working with you through the ITC. So, and also directly with the WTO itself, but as I said, through building knowledge together, helping to build your capacity. We are also trying to work with bigger enterprises and who have supply chains. Because you have young entrepreneurs who could be part of these supply chains, already are. And what we are trying to say to them is, there is opportunity in Africa. You know, so don't neglect the continent. If you're trying to diversify away from China or any of the other places, the risk on the continent is more perception than actuality. You need to invest there and you need to bring in the young people. You have to be inclusive. So those are the three ways. Two are very concrete because I have more control over. One is job owning with the big CEOs to see what they can do. And we had an excellent session yesterday. There was a CEO session brought together by McKinsey, and I spoke there on this subject of diversification of supply chains into Africa and trying to bring the young people in the supply chains along. So let me leave it there for now. I can elaborate.
Thank you very much. And she has challenged us, the audience. Data, green data. I think you asked me a question. So the Tony Elumelu Foundation and iCare Foundation and Generation U, UNICEF Generation U, have come together, and currently we are supporting 200 young African entrepreneurs in green economy in Kenya. It's an experiment we're making now to see how that works, and then we should be able to catalyze it across the continent. But on the issue of data specifically, yes, we have data, those we have funded, out of the 18,700 we have funded, we have data of those who are in that green space. But I take up the challenge. We need to do even beyond what we do and see how we can help create that database for the continent where people who are in that space can register and begin to know what we have available on the continent.
You see, well, then maybe we can work together.
Yes.
And Aruna,
No,
don't you want to be, maybe you have some data.
She's going to comment after you now because she's going to tell us she's been quite catalytic on the continent in this space too. So, second question, again, what we did was at the foundation, we said the 1.5 million young Africans who have trained through our Digital Connect. We asked a question. This session is coming up. What do you want to ask the DG? And so these questions, the second question is from there. They say, our young entrepreneurs across all 54 African countries tell us about the high barriers to trade. How can we reduce these trade barriers to help capacitize and empower them further?
Well, the barriers to trade on the continent are really an issue because they raise the cost of trade. And there are two types mainly. There are the infrastructural barriers, there are the bureaucratic barriers. And the barriers in Africa amount to another 353% tariff. So imagine the tariff, and you want to export. It's putting another 300% on top of your goods. So that's why it's hard to compete. So even as I say, there's no perception of risk is exaggerated, but we have to be honest with those coming in that, look, there are some significant barriers. So I hear you, we've calculated it, and I'm sharing the numbers with you. Within the continent, if you want to trade, and this is what the African Continental Free Trade Area must grapple with, it's even worse. The tariff is 424 so percent. So it's even higher cost because we are less connected. Sometimes it's cheaper, and you know it, to ship something from China to a point in Africa than to ship from one African country to the next. So with these kinds of high barriers, it is not a short-term project. It's a longer-term project. But there are some things we can do in the meantime that is within the power of governments to do. And those are the bureaucratic barriers, the multiple requirements you have to meet if you want to produce your product, have it, get the proper licensing or clearance with let's say you're doing something and you need the Food and Drug Administration of your country to clear it. Then you want to export, you have to meet so many requirements. Not to talk of even the access to finance to enable you to trade. That's another issue I'll touch on because the finance barrier is also a significant one. But what are we doing? I always say there are all these issues. At the WTO, what have we tried to do? So I'll share with you. We have a trade facilitation agreement that is meant to clear away all these barriers to trade so that people can trade more easily and export. The implementation across the world is 77%. This agreement was adopted in 2013. But among our countries, it's more in the 40% range. So what I'm trying, those who have implemented it have found that it has helped them lower these costs of trade, at least on the bureaucratic side. So we're really trying to urge our countries, they've all signed on to it, please implement the WTO's trade facilitation agreement that you signed. So this is one thing that we're working on. It's no good just having an agreement if you don't implement. Right now, we are negotiating an investment facilitation agreement. Again, looking from another perspective, what are the barriers to investment if you want to come into the continent? Which ones can we sweep away, including some chapters in the negotiations on dealing with corruption and so on. So we don't shy away. Right. We have 119 countries. It's a plurilateral agreement and mounting. And so we hope that this will be completed at the end of February 2024 when we have our next ministerial conference. And I'll try to work hard to get it ratified quickly so it can become effective. These are some of the things we're trying to do in a broader thing to help out. I want to touch on finance. We have a big trade finance gap in the world for small and medium enterprises. this is not something that developed countries really struggle with. Their businesses don't encounter this problem very much. They have much better access to finance at reasonable rates. But our businesses, when they want to trade, because of what happened in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, many rules and reforms have come in, Basel II, III, and that has led to a lot of corresponding banking being shut down. Access to trade finance is lower, and so on. We have on the continent an $80 billion a year trade finance gap. That's a lot.
It is.
It's not insurmountable, but it's a lot. We found that only 25% of businesses in West Africa have adequate access to trade finance. And if we were able to give them proper access, trade would double. So these are some of them. I always like to give numbers because that's the way my mind goes. So these are the barriers that we in front of you. Of course, you know the barriers. The issue is, what do we do about them? I can work on a macro level with governments, and we have the instruments that I told you about. So we are going to continue working and persuading them, to sweep away these things so that you can breathe and you can have access to what you need to be able to export. By the way, for women, we found that women entrepreneurs who export earn 3 times more than those who sell on the domestic market.
Wow.
3 times more. This is data. So we are very excited about encouraging women entrepreneurs to be in the export, and men too. So that's what I can say. I think we have a knowledge platform to share with you some of the things we are trying to do. But it's on a more policy-based level rather than at the micro level. And that's the way if we work one by one, we won't be able to clear away the big policy issues. So I'm interested in trying to sweep them to the side.
Thank you. So we've heard women entrepreneurs. It's better to look at the export market than the domestic market, so you can make 3 times what you would have made if you exported. But Muyiwa Akinyemi, Deputy Group CEO of UBA, is here. When you have the opportunity to comment, it will be nice to hear you speak about the trade finance deficit on the continent. You had $80 billion. Let's hear what African banks are doing and what they're also doing with the international bank to bridge this gap. It is indeed a challenge. And IFC are here too. So it would be nice to hear IFC comment on this, and AFRESIM, AFDB, all here.
Can I give them a shout out?
Yes,
because
please.
they're the ones actually trying to help.
AFRESIM.
AFRESIM and IFC, and we have a partnership with them.
Yeah.
We're working together.
Yeah.
We did the study that I mentioned was done with the IFC. We've done one in West Africa and then another one in East Asia, in the Mekong, which we are going to launch. Yeah. So they're actually trying to make the difference. We don't have money, they do. So we partner with them to get things done.
This is quite catalytic, and this is the type of push and plug we need on the continent to help empower our people. Finally, before we open it up to the audience, as a female African leader, our export to the world, one that we're very proud of. You have made us very proud. We indeed are very proud of you. We have thousands of our young ones who are watching, because a lot of them over the TF Connect platform, we have about 1 million people there. A lot of them are watching, and others outside of the TF world are watching. Point and tell us in few words advice you have for them, especially our young females who look up to you every day and who are inspired. When the CEO of the Elumelu Foundation saw you, in fact, she kept harassing from where I was there. DG will soon be here. She'll soon be here. They all look up to you. My daughter is watching. All of them, they look up to you. What advice do you have for them?
I'm sure my sons and my daughter are not watching.
They are big.
They are all physicians, so they are in a different field. No, I want to say this with all seriousness. I myself are inspired by our young people. I think anyone who listens to what I have to say or, looks at my speeches will know I'm speaking from the heart. Why am I inspired? Every day, I'm discovering people who are doing amazing things on the continent, often with very little help, very few resources. They are very creative, very inventive. And what is exciting to me is that some of their work is showing up internationally. And I think the digital platform is enabling them to do that. That's why we are turning to digital trade, because we want to make sure that the rules that govern this give them the fairest and most predictable chance to get their things sold. We are also in a pilot project with the World Bank now to try to help our countries. We're taking 6 countries first with the Africa region to try to cross or overcome the digital divide, both hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. So I'm saying this, you want to know what advice I have? Keep being who you are. The best way to succeed is I'm not saying don't be ambitious or anything, but for me, the lesson I learned is when I'm doing what I like and what I'm passionate about, that's what success is about. And if you are in a job, you will do it so well that you won't even know when you get promoted. If you're running your own business, you will succeed because you are putting so much passion into it. So my advice to you is keep your nose in what you like to do, what you're passionate about, and think beyond yourself. Whatever you're doing, whether you're in the private sector or public, if you think of what you're doing as serving others, even in your small business, it helps to make it worthwhile to get up every day and get to work. So it's not only about yourself, it's about the people around you, and it's about doing what you love best.
Thank you.
That's the advice I have.
Thank you. Young African entrepreneurs who are listening, you've heard it all. Passion, passion, passion. Laser focus, discipline, determination, and of course, resilience will see you and take you to the top. This is coming from someone who has seen it all. Thank you very much. Let's quickly, before we leave, open it up. I am told there are some interventions. Let's start with the Assistant Administrator and Regional Director for Africa, the UNDP. Ahuna, please. Oh, okay, please, come to the stage. Okay. And after Ahuna, we'll have Kevin here. Kevin Frey.
Yeah, it's like I'm making a speech.
Yeah.
You want the mic?
And then Sergio, next.
Thank you. I'm humbly standing next to my sister, my big sister, and my brother. I don't really know how to amplify what we just heard because it was so profound in terms of what's needed in this space. But maybe what I could add is about the whole trust factor, especially when we're thinking about young people. And the reason why UNDP associated itself with the TAF Foundation a few years ago in a joint program on this entrepreneurship is because of that leadership and courage of this entity to trust and invest in young Africans. It was one of the first at that scale. And I think that's so important because on the continent, young people are often not really trusted. And sometimes that trust is bigger than money.
True.
Because the moment you take that step and you start to invest in a young person and you're an important entity like TF, you you inspire the rest of the world, you also infect other minds to come along. And that's why we came along as UNDP to say, let's do this together. My dear sister talked about partnership. No one is going to be able to handle this alone. No entity. And so the fact that we're able to start building a coalition between all of our entities to go to scale, because that's what's missing, as you were saying, is drip, drip, drip in this sector. Everyone gets excited and inspired by these young people, but we're giving them little bits of things. And we need to go from these kinds of, hackathon to hackathon, pitch to pitch, to industry level investment. So where are those young people with talent whose ideas have to go from just ideas and little projects to scale, to unicorns? And this is why UNDP is investing in an initiative which we're calling Timbuktu. Because when it comes to this green area, that's actually where you find a lot of startups. And practically all of them are doing something for service. I'm yet to meet a startup on the continent that's not about addressing a development challenge. It's quite stunning, because we think this space is all about making profit, but we have a generation of young people who are focused on social enterprise. They want to solve development challenges, and that's what excites me. And this is the reason why I think this conversation today is so important, that we start to elevate this to a more transformative level, where we're not just talking about the small investments, but we're trusting these young people with big investments. Our Timbuktu, it's ambitiously looking at setting up a $1 billion fund that will help finance these initiatives and take them to industry level.
That's it. Thank you. And this is coming from Edua. Under her leadership and AKIM, UNDP has partnered with the Elumelu Foundation to empower so many young Africans. In fact, we have an ambitious project in the Sahel region of Africa where we are touching so many lives. Over I think, 5,000 to 7,000 young women and men in the Sahel region of Africa have been impacted. And what impressed us the most was UNDP saying, we are more interested in people in the rural areas than those in the urban areas. And well done. We believe in this your ambition, and we think it's time to scale so that we can impact more lives on the continent. Well done. Let us call Sergio IFC, to talk to us and tell us also how we can bridge this trade finance gap on the continent. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Tony. Very nice to see you, Ngozi. It's hard to come after these speakers and to say a few words on the IFC side, and thank you very much, Ngozi, for the very kind words that you said about IFC, and I'm very, very excited about the partnership that we have with you, and fully agree that unlocking trade in Africa is absolutely essential, in particular intercontinental trade. This is one of the areas that we're working on. But I just want to say a few words about what we're doing on entrepreneurship, because this is really the future of Africa, and that I really salute you, Tony, for everything that the foundation and yourself have been doing for supporting young entrepreneurs in Africa. On our side, we do believe that you do need to look at the full ecosystem, and we need to focus on what are the main areas, the pinpoints, the pain points that need to be really unlocked. And we see those around the business environment, so that we can improve the business environment. Access to finance, and trade finance is a very important one. Capacity building, and we have been deploying a lot of resources of helping the young entrepreneurs to get the skills and the capacity that they need. And then access to markets and access to networks. And there I think that the digital economy that is really spreading is also a wonderful opportunity. And that's one of the areas that we've been really working on. So we've been, you mentioned that we had money. I mean, we've been deploying quite a bit of funding We've deployed about $2 billion in Africa for SMEs last fiscal year. And we're very excited to be able to do more. We also have been doing beyond funding because I think it's very important that really working on developing these ecosystems. And we have an initiative called the IFC Catalyst, Startup Catalyst, that has been working with startups. We've helped 19 startups across Africa. Through them, we reached about 1,100 entrepreneurs, men and women, and in about 24 countries. And we really want to scale that. And we will never be able to do that alone. So partnerships is really at the core of our approach. And I'm very glad to see so many of you in the room here. And I know that we've been talking with quite a few of you to see how we can grow this partnership. So please count on the IFC. And thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you. The Director General is going to leave soon because you know how it is here. So many events. Kevin Frey, CEO, UNICEF, JNU, please, your turn. And after that, you can leave. 2 more minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Generation Unlimited at UNICEF. We've heard a lot about partnerships today. That's what we are at our essence. We're a public-private youth partnership focused on young people, ensuring they have a great transition from learning to earning, school to work, and that is about skills, but then connections to opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship. Tony, you've been on our Global Leadership Council since day one when the Secretary General launched Generation Unlimited. Under your leadership, we've really moved in a concerted way into the entrepreneurial space. We now have a flagship program with Generation Unlimited, with the Tony Elumelu Foundation, called Be Green. Mentioned it launched in Kenya earlier this year. We had over 7,000 applications. We've already now scaled with the support of the IKEA Foundation and the Dutch government to Nigeria, to Senegal, to South Africa. So we will train and we will seed 500 green entrepreneurs this year in the pilot project across those 4 countries. So Tony, thank you so much. I think you're right, it is all about partnership, and happy to be partnering with the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Thank you for your support. I'll leave you, but we'll continue.
Just before I go.
Okay, before.
Everybody announcing they had a fund just reminded me. Now for the women, this is very tiny, but we're going to launch a $50 million Women's Accelerator Fund for digital trade.
Fantastic.
And it's going to be launched here in the Gulf at the end of February, and they've agreed to seed it. Okay. So once we have it, where's Nicole? Nicole is my gender advisor, and she's behind it. So we are going to be doing this. We'll be able to help some of the women entrepreneurs who are involved in digital trade. And if it's a digital green trade, even better.
Fantastic. So, Mati, you liaise with Nicole, and let's do more together.
Sorry, I have to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good luck. Sorry, I have to leave.
But this picture, there are many people who join this picture. We must take picture. Please let World Bank join, SAD join, Ogolo, Kevin, and then Rockefeller Foundation, and then of course Workbook Program. Please join us.
Yes.
We'll be smiling.
Okay.
Okay, we are continuing because we have 3 more interventions before we leave. Wendy Teeli. Wendy, please. Wendy, you have the floor to share your. Yeah.
Thank you, and it's really great to be here and very inspirational to hear all of your remarks. I'm Wendy Teeli, and I'm with the World Bank. I run a program called the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, which sits in the gender group of the World Bank and focuses on supporting women entrepreneurs around the world. But we don't only work with the World Bank, we also work with the African Development Bank, we work with IFC, we work with the Islamic Development Bank, the EBRD. So around Africa, we're working with 5 different multilateral development banks supporting women entrepreneurs in those markets to get access to finance. Through our programs around the world, we've been able to get about $3.6 billion out to finance women entrepreneurs. And because and that's in about 67 countries, because we work across all of the multilateral development banks, we're looking to take a more systematic approach, country by country, to supporting women entrepreneurs. And I'll just give you an example of a program we launched recently, the We Finance Code, which is going to be working in about 30 countries to bring the financial sector together, the regulators, financial infrastructure, financial institutions, to commit to doing more to serve women entrepreneurs, to improve data on women entrepreneurs, and get more financing out the door to women entrepreneurs across the financial sector. Going forward, we are going to be moving to do more with women in the climate space. And so we will be launching a new initiative to support women systematically across Africa and the rest of the world to focus on climate businesses, looking in 2 areas. One, helping women build more resilience and to green their own businesses. And the second is to support those entrepreneurs that are developing new solutions and technologies to really drive the green transition. So put women into a leadership role so that 20 years from now, when we can say we have a new economy from the green transition, there are women leading those companies and not just men. So that's our vision on this new effort that we're going to be making, and we would love to find ways to partner with you on that effort. So thank you very much.
So let's clap for Wendy. Wendy is the head of Women Entrepreneurs Financial Initiative at the World Bank. And so women and everyone here, go to a person on this. Wendy, sounds very exciting, and I look forward to how we can partner with the World Bank to create more impact. Thank you for what you do. Let's have the Senior Vice President, Power and Climate, Rockefeller Foundation, Mr. Ashvin Dayal. Join us, please. I stepped out now. And then we have Matthias Froneri, the Swedish climate ambassador and head of delegation. Good to see you, Matthias. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and great to be here. We haven't met before, but I know you're working closely also with our embassy in Abuja, who are engaged very much in innovation, digitalization, and also, of course, the green transition. And I know they do want to explore the possibility of setting up a platform to bring together Swedish young entrepreneurs with entrepreneurs not only from Nigeria, but across the African continent. And I think if you're working also with Swedish embassies across Africa, you will see the same kind of drive to be working with African countries to support entrepreneurship. And if you don't want to wait for that, I would invite you all to the Swedish pavilion just a couple of blocks down here to meet with the Swedish business actors who are there to facilitate and make sure that we're making the most of the transition to net zero. From the Swedish perspective, we highlight urgency and opportunity when we look to the climate transition and what it brings in terms of new jobs and growth. So I'll be happy to facilitate those kind of conversations with African partners together with our Swedish business actors just a couple of blocks down the road. Excellent.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Excellent. Good to see you there.
Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you. And then let me call Saj Ekwa. Saj? Oh, he's right there in front of me. Yeah? Okay.
Hi, Tony. Thank you very much. I have to apologize for Serge because, you know, he happens to have 8 bosses, eight head of states, and one decided that he wanted to see him, so he couldn't come. BOID, for those who don't know, is the regional bank for the West African UEMOA countries, actually the 8 UEMOA countries based out of Togo. You know, for too long, climate discussion and climate financing has been some kind of a nice to have. I mean, we all wanted to have it in our annual reports and so and so. And now I think we all realize that it's a must. We really need to do things seriously. And as far as BOID is concerned, we've committed as part of our strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan to dedicate about 25% of our financing, 25%. So we're talking basically about 3,300 billion CFA, which is roughly around 6 billion, I guess, US dollars. So we'll be focusing on that. Obviously, we don't have the reach, and I think working with the foundation, as far as our 8 countries are concerned, might be a way to go. So we'll need to talk about that. We've working both on the liability and the asset side. We are accredited to most of the known climate funds. And obviously, we are looking for quality assets. So, and Tony, thanks for all you're doing for Africa. We crossed about 15 years ago. I was living here. I was working for a bank. And you're visiting, and you saw that you needed to talk to me. And then I really appreciate what you're doing. We are very proud of that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks for what you guys are doing, too. And between IFC, AFD, Biafra, United Bank for Africa Group, and yourselves, I'm sure we'll be able to do something about that $6 billion. Let me invite Adam Wang Levin, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Climate.
Thank you for the opportunity to join this group. And I'm incredibly appreciative of what you're doing. Before coming to the US Treasury, I was actually working in venture capital. And so I think that it's incredibly important what the foundation is doing. And I think I've seen at least 2 things that are very helpful. It's not only the financing, but I also think the mentorship. And I think a lot of what you've been doing can just help, as I've seen with Silicon Valley, drive innovation and job creation. And so I think 2 things that I'd like to highlight that the US government is doing is, first, with our Just Energy Transition partnerships, as well as with Power Africa, we've been prioritizing skills training and development, particularly in the renewables area. So actually, Janet Yellen, our secretary, visited Mpumalanga in South Africa, where we started a facility that was actually helping train workers and entrepreneurs to develop skills in the solar industry. And I think a second thing that you'll likely hear in the next few days is we're actually have been thinking more about clean energy supply chains and things that we can do there. And so we'd welcome the opportunity to do more with many of you here as well as the foundation.
We're getting there, almost done. Muyiwa Akinyemi, Deputy Group Mine Director of United Bank for Africa. You have the floor to tell us what your group is doing to empower young Africans, as well as what you're doing to bridge this trade deficit.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm actually excited to be here today. From what I've learned, I've taken a lot of notes back that I'm going to work on from what Dr. Okonjo-Iweala said and what each and every development partners have said about trade. I think for us, UBA, we're a platform. We represent that platform for market access into 20 geographies in Africa today. Everything that we do is around Africa. And that's why we partnered with Afrexim recently to launch the $6 billion fund for SMEs that we disburse over the next 3 years. And it's particularly towards import substitution of 4 key areas that we find that imports is a lot high in Africa: automobile, pharmaceuticals, transport and logistics, and also tied to climate as well, and emission reduction. So when we chose those 4 segments, we were quite deliberate about what we want to do with those SMEs in that space. But beyond that, prior to that time, because we recognize that payments and settlement is a challenge for SMEs across Africa. The Mozambican trading in Michigan wants to settle or trade with somebody in Senegal or Nigeria. So we worked with Afrexim to launch the PAPSS platform, which will PAPS, Pan-African Payment Settlement System. And UBA is a pilot bank for that. And we've started that pilot in 5 countries now. The expectation is that we're going to drive that across the 54 countries across Africa, such that the Egyptian can trade with the Senegalese in local currency, rather than looking for foreign currency, which is scarce across Africa, to trade and serve, settlement of goods and services across Africa. The third thing we're also doing in that space is also our deliberate action towards women SMEs. We have a scheme to support SMEs, particularly women, across the group, and significantly we've driven that across all our geographies today, where we support them with small-scale financing, capacity development as well, and also market access. So we have what we call Marketplace that we're building along with a few partners as well. And as I listen to colleagues here, we'll be looking at you working with us in trying to drive market access for those SME entrepreneurs across Africa, especially the women and the youth as well, because Africa has a youth opportunity. We're a youthful continent, and we believe that with the power that our youth have, we can turn that into a lot more of businesses for us across Africa. So a number of things we are doing, but for lack of time, let me just stop here. And I'd like to thank Chairman again for this opportunity, this platform for Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite, that's the last speaker for the night, I want to invite a beneficiary of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. She is in green economy. She is from Madagascar. Christiana, okay, you're there. Come and tell us what you're doing to transform Africa from the green economy point of view.
Sure. As you can hear, I lost my voice, but this won't stop me sharing today. Don't worry. Allow me to start with some numbers. Can you hear me well? You're good? Yeah, it sounds sexy, right? So let me start with numbers. 3 because 3 out of 4 people in my country do not have access to water and sanitation. 3 because Madagascar, according to UNICEF, is the third country in the world that has the most difficult access to water and sanitation. And 3 because Madagascar is considered as the third country in Africa that is most vulnerable to climate change. It means vulnerable. Yeah, to climate change. It means, cyclones, floods, drought. We have everything. But you know what? I'm a very optimistic person. When some people may see problems, I see opportunities and solutions. My name is Mary Christina Kolo. I'm from Madagascar. I'm an eco-feminist, a climate change activist, and a social entrepreneur. So let me share a little bit about our solution. In the midst of the pandemic, we heard a lot of campaign asking us to wash our hands. But in my country, when you don't have access to soap and water, how do you do? So that's how we arrived with my team. We create a soap. So this soap is called Alt Soap. Alt Soap or alternative soap. This may look like a simple soap, but I can tell you that it's much more than a simple soap. It is actually made with waste cooked oil. Why waste cooked oil? Because in urban cities in Africa, the waste cooked oil represents the #1 water polluter. It means that 1 liter of waste cooked oil can pollute 1 million liters of water, of clean water. And it also means that 1 liter can also clog the pipes and increase the risk of floods in various cities, like my city, Antananarivo in Madagascar. We are facing floods like every year, and this intensity increase year after year. But our soap doesn't only protect the environment, it's also a solidarity soap. Why? Because in my country, 2,000 kids die every day because they do not have access to this. Can you imagine that this represents in some families 30% of their income? So what do? With each soap that is sold, we give one soap for free to orphanages, schools, hospitals, and after disasters, extreme events, we also distribute these soaps to different communities. So that's how we're trying to change the game. And in 2022, we got the support of your foundation. And it helped us grow and increase our impact. And last year at COP27, thanks to your support, we even won the Innovation Prize during a competition at COP27. And I think this also proved that innovation can be synonym of simplicity, it's just a soap, and solidarity. And I would like to thank you for that. Thanks for trusting African youth. Thanks for trusting green entrepreneurs. And yeah, entrepreneurs like us want to bring positive change in our community. Our next challenge in my country, for me and my friends over there, I have my Madagascar delegation ready to meet you. So yes, our next challenge is also to empower other youth. And that's why with my organization, we are trying to, invest in a low-tech solution. And I hope that when you will hear about innovation, you will also think about what we can do with low technology, with simple solution that can be affordable for all. And once again, thank you for this opportunity to share.
Congratulations. Well done, well done, well done. Quick question. Do you have people who work for you? Staff who work for you, people you employed?
Two of them are here.
How many staff do you have?
Right now, maybe they can answer. How many staff do we have for the soap? I can say in total, let's say 30? 30? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just $5,000, $5,000. This is the impact we create. And she said, trust. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, we'll end the event. I want to thank all of you and say, you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. It's about partnership. It's about unity. It's about all of us realizing that there's so much to do in empowering young ones on the African continent. One person, as Auna said, cannot do it. One institution, one foundation cannot do it. We need the power of collaboration. We need the power of partnership. We need everyone, development agencies, global private sector, foundations, philanthropic organizations, individuals, all of us, and governments, of course, play our own part to make the world a better place for everyone. Because poverty anywhere is a threat to all of us everywhere. We have seen the disastrous impact of climate change, especially in Africa. Africa, unfortunately, does not contribute to this crisis, but Africa bears the brunt, the most of this crisis. We must do something about it. There's a heightened sense of urgency to change things. That change will not happen if all of us do not come together. And we see hope in young Africans. They are energetic, they are intelligent, they are educated. You just listen to the last speaker here. They want to make a difference in their communities, in the world, but they need help, they need support. And I know that it's not beyond us as global citizens, global community. Let's make that change, and let's make it now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.